Hello, this is CleanTech Business Club once again from the 12th DII Desert Energy Leadership Summit. And now we are, again with one of the green dinosaurs, yes?
Yes.
With Paul Vanson.
Yeah.
But actually, it's not me, it's Paul who invented this nickname for himself. We are with Paul Vanson, who is the founder of DII Desert Energy. I think it was maybe like 12 years ago, yes?
It was in 2009, 13 years ago.
13 years ago,
Yeah.
yes, 13 years ago. And through, these 13 years, DII went through different turbulences, there were different business models, but I think the most important that today, it's a really successful organization. And I think the most important, the organization, the initiative that groups amazing people, yes? Because at the end of the day, business is important, but I think that at the end of the day, with all the technology becoming commodity, human to human is the most important. And I would like to thank you, Paul, once again.
Thank you.
For our cooperation, yes. And then first question, Paul. So are you excited actually today?
Of course. I mean, a summit at DII, each year we have our annual summit, and it is about leadership in the transition in the MENA region, North Africa, Middle East, which is a desert region. And if I see all the people and ever a growing number of companies, and if I see the quality of the people and also their motivation and their spirit, then I feel very happy.
Yes, exactly. This is the same for me because I think that in the club and also in DII, like 99.9% of the people, they are passionate, yes?
Passionate, yes.
Yes. So it's not only about business, but also about making the positive impact in the world.
But it is passionate, not in a sort of esoteric way, like high flying, but it is also making business.
On the ground, exactly.
On the ground. These are people that are developing projects, solar or wind or storage or in the power grid or gas, hydrogen, eFuels, all in the framework of no emissions.
It's actually great because we spoke with Paddy, and Paddy, he received the first award, yes, of DII.
Yeah.
And actually, as you mentioned, yes, it's not like the dreamers, but doers.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the guys actually who helped to scale up, yes, because you had this project of building like a network and exporting energy from Africa to Europe. Then afterwards, I remember that you focused on the small-scale projects, yes, to make them regionally. And at the end of the day, your members, they became the developers or EPC or owners of the largest projects, large-scale projects, yes?
Yeah, you have to go in steps. In the very beginning, people were talking immediately about very big projects. And that, of course, doesn't work. You have to go in small, you have to learn walking by the first steps. And that's also what we did in the very early days, working with the countries to develop their own projects, like solar and wind. And the countries like Morocco and UAE, but also Jordan and Oman and later Algeria. And so they also developed their own projects. And today, all the countries in MENA, from the west to the east, they have developed many thousands of megawatts of projects already, and there are many projects in the pipeline.
And I think that you notice also that in the MENA region, at the beginning there is a lot of talks about big projects, and then there is a moment of delay, but suddenly when there is a tipping point, it's booming, yes? So actually like with the CleanTech disruption, yes?
Yeah,
so at the beginning slower, and then there is a big boom, yes? So I think that now we reached the tipping points in the region, yes?
On the side of power generation, so solar, wind, a little bit of hydro. First, that's right what you say, there was a time of many announcements, thousands of megawatts, and now we see that they are being built.
Exactly.
And the same now is about 10 years later, we see the same phenomenon with hydrogen. There is a whole bunch of projects, there are even 60 projects announced on electrolyzers in MENA, and they will not all be built immediately. This will come in this decade.
I remember that you are in the renewable energy space maybe like 20 years, yeah? So
I started beginning in about 2000 with renewables. In those days it was something exotic.
Exactly.
And there was a lot of government support was needed. It was very expensive.
Feed-in tariff in
Feed-in
other
tariff,
countries.
you needed feed-in tariff or other support, and the industry did not yet completely take it serious. And when we started, of course, we didn't know that it would take off like this. Also, the climate issue, the climate depression awareness 20 years ago was much less than today.
Exactly.
And that all helps. It's the climate issue. It's also the cost level. The cost from 25 cents or even more 20 years ago was even much higher than 25 cents per kilowatt hour. Solar and wind.
No, it was €3, yeah, or something like this.
€3 on PV, yes.
On PV, yeah.
And solar thermal was also very, very expensive. Wind was already like maybe 15 cents or 10 cents. Today, as you know, it's about 1 cent or 2 cents per kilowatt hour.
And soon it will be almost free.
Well, at the end of the day, it's a little bit of semiconductor PV and a converter. Even if we go for DC grids, you do not even need a converter anymore. I think that will be a trend to go to DC infrastructure. Of course, you need always some kind of conversion, but this will become very, very cheap.
So what inspired you actually to move the focus of activities of DII towards hydrogen or green hydrogen?
When we started in 2009, we had, of course, a lot of work to do to push for the renewables as such in the region. When that took off, then we also saw that one of the big issues is to transport all the energy, the electrical energy. Of course, you can build electrical grids, which is taking place, but much faster it will go through molecules. Yeah, you can transport hydrogen or derived products like ammonia or methanol much faster, much more volume at lower costs through infrastructure like pipelines or ships, boats, all that. So when we saw this, actually I talked in 2017 with Professor Van Wijk in the University of Delft, he's an old friend of mine, and he was already talking about the value of molecules of hydrogen. And then we said, well, this is exactly the right thing to this region.
Exactly.
So if we can, on the one side, we continue, of course, with the power system. That is not the end yet. It's still at the beginning even. But we said, in addition to that, you get the market for molecules, like the natural gas today, like oil. The oil and gas of today will become the hydrogen or eFuels of tomorrow.
Exactly, and I think it's very interesting because also the hydrogen business is better understandable for the oil countries, yes? And they can see actually their diversification in the future into green hydrogen even quicker than towards renewables, yes? But at the end of the day, they also realize that they can produce the hydrogen in the cheapest way with the renewables, yes?
Most of the industry is dealing with molecules. Today, if you look at the worldwide energy picture, the famous 160,000 terawatt hours per year, it is mainly molecules or liquids or gases or solids. And electricity is maybe 20 or 25%. What we see is a trend that you get more electricity, so it goes, the energy markets will become more electrical, but not more than, for instance, 40 or 50%. So the big markets of energy remain on a molecule basis, and these molecules connect all the sectors: steel factories, power stations, transport in the air, on sea, and so on and so forth.
So you don't see like a competition, yes, with renewables. It's more like a complementary.
The molecules and the electrons will compete. In some of the markets there is no competition, like in the steel factory. They cannot produce steel based on electricity. An aluminum factory is making aluminum on the basis of electrical power, and they cannot deal with natural gas. So this is there is always a competition between the energy carriers. And it's important that there is infrastructure. The infrastructure itself is not really a big competition as such, but there should, by governments, be a sort of basic infrastructure to bring the energy from A to B.
2 years ago, 3 years ago, we had a big issue with COVID, yes? So people understood what does it mean, the disruption in their lives, in their businesses, etc. Now we have the war in Ukraine, and we have a lot of geopolitical tensions. And how do you think this will influence the development of hydrogen, of renewables? Do you think it's a threat, or it's maybe an opportunity actually to really work together even stronger to even more accelerate the transformation?
I think that through the crisis in this geopolitical crisis, and there is not only Russia, Ukraine, or from time to time crisis in other parts of the world, it is always a shock to markets, and it always means a very a strong or a fast change in prices or in volumes or in security of supply. And if that happens, then this also creates awareness about the product. If the product is very easy to get, and for many years we had in Europe, for instance, and in many parts of the world, energy, even with emissions, by the way, is very bad, but it was low cost, and it was very secure, and it was affordable. So
it was like a done thing.
Yeah, it was a done thing. People don't care. They think they take it for granted. So the good thing for all this crisis, especially in the crisis in Russia and Ukraine, although this is awful what happens, but in any case it creates awareness that energy, like from natural gas from only one single source in the huge volumes, is very vulnerable from an energy security point of view, and also from an emission point of view. It is very detrimental. It's catastrophic to the climate.
Exactly.
And now the good thing is that this kind of harmful energy is not available even, or is very expensive. On the one hand, the high energy prices is a windfall profit to the gas and oil sector, and even the coal sector worldwide, temporarily. But it is at the same time, and that is a good thing, very favorable to the renewable energy world, because renewable energy gets a better price at the market. So their product is more of a value.
And also gets more political attention from the decision makers.
Of course it is, because renewable energy is by definition security of supply.
Exactly.
There will always be sunshine, there will always be some wind here and there will always be, or at least most of the time, hydro and geothermal. So if you talk about security of supply and no emissions, and affordability, low cost, then you go automatically to renewables.
Exactly. And then also green hydrogen, yes, or hydrogen is coming, yes, like an additional source of energy independence, yes, because it can be produced more or less everywhere, yes, or even transported within the global network between different countries, yes.
Yeah, it's like LNG today. You can apply the same idea about the hydrogen. LNG is produced actually from natural gas and then liquefied and then put in carriers or ships. Hydrogen is produced from renewable energy, solar or wind or hydro, and it can be stored and transported to all places on the world, and in that sense it creates a sort of interdependence or independency partly, which actually guarantees continuity of supply.
If you compare renewables with hydrogen, yes, so because you remember the time when the renewables were born, let's say, and now if you compare with hydrogen, so what are the similarities, and which kind of experience we can use in order to help, to grow hydrogen, and which are the things which are different? Like, for example, the fact that in the past the big players were always very neglected about renewables, yes. Now all the big players, they think, maybe this is our future, yes.
First of all, we have to talk about see this from the point of view of energy carriers. The one is electricity, which is produced by renewables. And the other is molecules or hydrogen produced from electricity, but it can also be produced from fossils, hydrogen.
Exactly.
So if you produce hydrogen from fossil fuel, which is by the way, the traditional way of producing hydrogen was from oil or gas. And if you would do this today, in principle that is okay, but then the use of that hydrogen should take care that the carbon that is used in this process will be captured. So we should not go into a market in which we produce hydrogen because people want hydrogen, and then create a lot of emissions. So the best way, of course, is to produce hydrogen from renewables, for sure. We call it green hydrogen. But it's not forbidden, and it will not stop immediately, the so-called gray hydrogen produced from fossils. But again, if governments should never allow the gray hydrogen without a guarantee that the emissions will be captured or reused.
In our club, we said our goal is really to go for the green hydrogen, yes, the cheapest way of producing, and also creating the new markets for our industry.
We believe as well that renewables will always be, on the end of the day, the cheapest way. And we see today that the gray ammonia and the gray hydrogen is more expensive than the green hydrogen. And that is, of course, that is like
no-brainer at the end.
That is the best you can get. But even if it would not be, if fossil-based hydrogen would be cheaper, then we should not allow such hydrogen in the market without capturing of the CO2.
So how would you like to help that, like some people say, this is hydrogen hype, becomes reality?
What we also discussed here in our board and in our advisory board with many top people, we all agree that the focus in the coming years will be to create a global market for renewables, renewable energy, for emission-free energy carriers. Of course, we should consider the reality that there will be for many years still fossil, but if the fossils are being traded in the market, then there should be an extra cost or a penalty through carbon credits or through other means. And also very important to give green, because green power, a premium through the trade of guarantees of origin. So what we propose is a separated trade of the physical carriers, the physical molecules, and the green and the emission properties.
Okay, so this is like your major focus that you will be bringing the message to different governments, yes?
Yeah, because that gives the best value to also the product of this region, which will be green at the end of the day. Most of the products of the region, without terminating immediately the fossil, because that would not be accepted. Would not be realistic to say there is no trade of fossil energy anymore in this region. But this region is a fossil energy region.
But at the end, I think it will be like a natural transformation, yes?
A natural transformation based on market mechanisms in which the renewables will be pushed and the fossils will be phased out.
You are the dinosaur, yes, and
I'm a
the person who created organization. You work very hard, but you would not achieve these results without your members, and especially without your team, with Cornelius, Valeria, and other team. Yes?
Like you said at the beginning, it's all about people. It is about working together, bringing people together, bringing countries together, bringing continents together, but also bringing markets together. And that makes a lot of fun.
Exactly, and thanks to the team, yes, because we could not make it Paul without the team. Yes,
we have a fantastic team.
So, do you still remember what is our flagship sign? So, thumbs up for Paul, thumbs up for DII, for Valeria, Cornelius, Sofia, for a great team, for our partnership, yes. And let's hope that during this decade we can make as much as possible transformation of our world into the positive direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And see you next time in Abu Dhabi. Yes,
Abu Dhabi,
in January.
in January.
Abu Dhabi. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching.